Hey friends, my name is Joey and welcome back to my channel, Gender Not Found, and yeah, I'm in my, oh fuck, I can't, why does this always happen? God. In my room again today, and I'm gonna be recording for at least 3 hours and probably more. Um, I don't do a lot of recordings, and I have to do a lot of recordings for this weekend because it's a long weekend. Because it's Family Day weekend, so I need like 4 days of videos, which is gonna take forever, so probably gonna be recording for like 4 or 5 hours. I'm gonna be recording for at least 3 hours and probably gonna end up recording for well I'm probably gonna be recording for like 4 or 5 hours in total and it's like not even noon right now. It's like quarter to 12, so I have plenty of time. I was gonna do this in the living room, but fuck it, it's an inclement weather day, so my mom stays home from work again. It's really starting to piss me off. I just want to fucking record in the living room, and I can't do that because it's an inclement weather day, or my mom needs a day off, or that my mom has a day off that she didn't tell me about, or something else. My mom always needs days off, and then I end up in my fucking bedroom and getting pretty sick of it. I can't wait until I'm moved out and I can just record whenever I want because I don't have to worry about my mom being around. It'll be so much better. Ugh, I wish I was moved out by now. It's really annoying. I just want to move out. I just want my own apartment. I haven't got anything yet. And it's fucking frustrating. Just, ugh. This is really frustrating. This is really frustrating. I just want my own apartment so I can record whenever I want. Now my mom's out there making noise, so if you guys hear any noise in the background, it's my mom. As far as I know, she's not planning on staying home tomorrow, so hopefully that doesn't happen. Anyway, but whatever. And I also have a worker coming, like, gonna start working with me every day, so I don't know, I might not be able to record as much. I'm still gonna record and upload every day. It just might not be as much. It might not be, like, a lot. So, like, I don't know. It might not, depending on, what you do, it might not be a lot. So, I guess we'll see. Like, I'm gonna have to rearrange my schedule for next week. And yeah, I'm gonna have to rearrange my schedule, and also for other reasons too. But I'll talk to you guys about that on. When am I gonna record again? On Tuesday. Oh, wait, I'm gonna record tomorrow, obviously, because it's Friday. But I'll talk to you guys about the updates on on Tuesday when I record again. In the meantime. Just keep yawning. Okay, in the meantime, let's read the story, A Guardian Angel, and I want to do more chapters of this. I don't know. I'm probably gonna be doing like mostly A Guardian Angel today, but I guess we'll see. I'm definitely gonna upload today. I'm definitely gonna record and upload A Guardian Angel both today and tomorrow, and I want to do it on the weekend too, but maybe we'll see. I don't know. I don't know how many chapters I'm gonna upload at a time. I still want to do like that mega upload with like 6 to 10 chapters, so maybe I'll do that next week. Wait, I might not be able to. I might not be able to do as much recording as I could in the past. I'm gonna have to figure out my schedule like once I know about like I'm gonna have to go I'm gonna have I'm gonna have to rearrange my schedule and figure that crap out, and I'm gonna have to yeah, I'm gonna have to figure it out because I don't, apparently she's coming during the day and when I usually record, so I'm gonna be really. This is so frustrating. Okay, I don't know. Whatever. Okay, whatever. You know what? I'm just gonna read and I will talk to you on Tuesday about, I don't know, the schedule and stuff. I'm tired. I'm getting really fucking frustrated with my mom being home. I just want to use the living room and record and just want to record in the living room. Chapter 24, Tailors and Twins. Mom, I need a favor. Marshall, do you have any idea what time it is? Hannah asked, looking at the alarm clock and sighing. It's 3 in the morning. What happened? Do you need bail money for your red-headed friend again? What? No. Well, not tonight, but I need a favor. Fiona's dress got ruined at an after party, and I know you know a bunch of people, and I was wondering if you knew anyone who could get it cleaned and fixed ASAP. Hannah yawned, sitting up as her son spoke. Yeah, I could throw a list together of people who could help, but you're gonna owe me, Marsh. Marshall could hear the smile in her voice and groaned. All right, I'll do whatever you want as long as her dress gets fixed before she goes home. Good. I want a day with my son. I'll call a friend of mine first thing in the morning, though we'll have this day next month. I'm booked solid for a few weeks. That's fine. Just let me know the day and I'll keep it open. I'm glad you're asking me for help, Marshall. I'll talk to you in the morning. With that, she hung up and called a tailor she was close friends with. I apologize for the late phone call, but first thing in the morning I'll be dropping off a gown. It's filthy and in need of mending, and I'll need it back within 12 hours. I'll pay you double. Yes, expect me at 8. After hanging up, Marshall flopped on the bed. A whole day with his mother. A whole day. It was worth it if Fiona's dress got fixed. Closing his eyes, he allowed his mind to think, as long as Fiona was happy. As long as she was happy. The sound of knocking woke Marshall the next morning, and pushing himself out of bed, he hurried down the stairs before whoever it was woke Fiona. Jerking the door open, he glowered at the redhead on the other side. Oh, Marshy, you can't even say hi, you just glare? The girl asked, hands on her hips with a grin. It's early, Amber. If you want the keys to FP's truck, they're in the visor. And when did you get back? It's not early, it's 11:30, and I got back last night. You sound all Scottish, he said, the sleep still evident in his voice. Well, I was in Scotland, Marsh, studying abroad and all that. You gonna invite me in, or do you have a girl you're hiding from me? Ember asked, pushing the door open and walking into Marshall's house, flopping on the couch with a wince. Oh, hell, you still haven't gotten rid of this thing, Marsh? It's a family heirloom, Em. What do you want, the usual? Nah, a glass of milk will do, though. I haven't had soda in forever, and really, I don't miss it, the redhead said, watching as Marshall poured a glass from the jug and handed it to her. I'm going back to bed, he said, glancing over at the table where he'd placed Fiona's dress and noticing that it was gone. Mom must have grabbed it this morning. Mush, what do you got for food? Are you going to eat me out of house and home? The dark-haired teen asked with a scowl, making the girl grin. No, I was going to make breakfast for you and me and your lady friend. It's not Ashley still, is it, Mush? Ember asked with a grimace. No, me and Ashley have been done for a while now. I think you'll like her. Well, Marsh, let's help ya, she said with a wink as she started grabbing pans. Now go upstairs, wake your girlfriend, and when both of you are presentable, breakfast will be done. You're not going to set anything on fire, right? Marshall asked, running his hand through his hair, stopping to look at his friend's little sister. Marshall, trust me, she said with a grin. Shaking his head, Marshall went upstairs, deciding on a shower before waking Fiona, and grabbing his clothes, he checked in on the blonde before heading to the bathroom. Fiona woke to the most unusual assortment of smells. It was a mixture of eggs and bacon, beans and mushrooms, and tomatoes and oatmeal. Curious, she pushed herself up and, with a stretch, walked into the hall, heading quietly down the stairs, freezing in place when she heard a voice humming along to the music on the radio. The one thing that shocked her was that the voice was female, and one she didn't recognize. Creeping down, she spotted a girl with short, fiery red hair cooking at the stove. She was wearing a dark red dress and a black jacket and matching boots. Turning to place something on the table, the girl spotted Fiona and grinned. Hi, you're Marcia's girl, right? You're Marcia's girl, yeah? The redhead said with a smile. Yes, Fiona said, not knowing who the girl was. Good, I'm Ember. It's nice to meet ya, she said with a wave. Come have some breakfast. I'd imagine Marsh'll be along soon, seeing you out of bed. Fiona simply nodded as the girl bustled around her. Now here we have oatmeal toast, eggs, grilled tomatoes, fried mushrooms, bacon, milk, jam, and some beans, she said, making her own plate and sitting down. I know you said your name was Ember, but who are you? Fiona asked, feeling like she'd seen the redhead somewhere else many, many times. Talk about deja vu. Good question coming from the girl who doesn't introduce herself, she said with a teasing smile. Oh, sorry, I'm Fiona, the blonde said, sitting down and making her own plate. Well, again, it's nice to meet you, Fiona. You must be the fee my brother talks about. If you haven't guessed by now, I'm Ignitus' sister. Wow, really? The blonde asked in shock. I didn't know FP had a sister. Are you older or younger? She asked eagerly. Oh, blazes, my brother's a gem, the girl said with a sigh. We're twins. He's older by 3 minutes and 12 seconds. He has a twin? Fiona gasped, nearly dropping her fork in shock. What? Why is she surprised at the notion of twins? That he does. Ignitus has always been the more artistic of the two of us, though he's got the emotional range of a teaspoon. I focused on school. We went to separate ones, and I was selected for a student ambassadors program to Scotland. I've been there for the last 2 years, just got back last night. I must say I missed everyone terribly, though I did pick up the accent more than I intended to, she said as an afterthought, taking a piece of toast and biting it before continuing. Either way, I came to get my brother's truck. I gotta go get him from Bubba's place, the redhead said, drifting away in her thoughts, startling Fiona as she gasped, a sudden thought popping into her head. Oh, I almost forgot. You live near my grandmother. Like we're neighbors, right? Fiona nodded, humming her affirmation, her mouth full of food. Would you mind if instead of my brother dropping you off, I did? I'd love to see my grandmother if I could. Yeah, I don't mind at all. Random question, though, Fiona asked, eating the last piece of bacon on her plate. Sure, shoot, the redhead asked, drinking her milk. What's haggis? For a moment, Ember stared at the blonde curiously until she realized that she was very serious in her inquisition. It's definitely a random question, the redhead said with a laugh before finally answering. Haggis is kind of a meat pudding. It's made with the heart, liver, and lungs of either a calf or sheep. It's cooked with onions, oatmeal, suet. Suet? Beef or mutton fat. That is stewed all that is stewed inside a sausage casing, though they used to use sheep's stomach. You look grossed out, Ember said with a laugh. I am. Did you like it? Fiona asked, taking a sip of her juice. It's not my cup of tea, Ember said with a laugh, but don't knock it until you've tried it. Do that and you'll insult the people who've made your food. I made that mistake once. Never again. The sound of Marshall coming down the stairs caught both girls' attention, and rounding the corner, Marshall spotted the table of food. Geez, Em, you asked to make breakfast, not a buffet, Marshall said, shaking his head. I did make breakfast. I made a Scottish breakfast, so bite it, Marsh, the redhead said with a grin and a wink as he sat down. I've seen you two have met. Quick intros. Fee, M, Fee. Now to the more important thing. What's foreign food and what isn't? Hearing this, Ember glowered at him. I'm not telling. Then you won't eat it. That's the point, Emma, Marshall said with a grin. Only Iggy can call me Emma Moshi. Now eat the breakfast I made or starve, she said icily, a malicious glint of humor in her eyes. Geez, fine, you little Scotsman, I'll eat your food, just don't poison me, Marshall said, taking a scoop of the oatmeal and some bacon and a few tomatoes. Now, Marshall, would I really do that? She asked, taking her and Fiona's plates. Remember your peanut butter cookie recipe you got online? You almost burnt your house down, Em. But did you die? She asked in all seriousness, leaning on the doorframe. That's not the. Now the redhead cut him off. But did you die? Fiona had a feeling that Marshall was starting to poke at the sleeping bear that was Ember's patience. It seemed that Marshall, too, picked up on her growing irritation and gave in. No, I didn't die. No, you didn't, sir, and I've had 2 years to get better at cooking. So please shut up and eat my delicious food before you wear it as a hat, she said with a toothy smile that Marshall knew too well. Quickly he took a bite of the oatmeal and began scarfing down food at random to appease the girl he'd angered. Now he turned to Fiona. You want to come with me to get my brother while Marshall eats his breakfast? Sure, I don't see why. Sure, I don't see why not, Fiona said with a nod. Great, go get dressed. We're leaving in 5. What? Oh, okay. Fiona said, standing from the table and heading up to the table. Now Ember turned to face Marshall at the table. Marsh, I'd invite you, but I know how you get when Bubba's involved, and with your sun allergy, it's just not in the cards today. Hearing this, Marshall grinned. It's fine, Em. I've got dishes to clean up anyways. That you do. Now I'm gonna steal your girlfriend and we'll go get my brother. I got a feeling there'll be a hassle, the red-haired girl said, watching as Fiona descended the stairs, dressed in a pair of jeans and a black t-shirt emblazoned with the words Zombie Response Team. Hearing this, Marshall grinned and a bunch of random letters that mean nothing, I'm pretty sure. Just a typo or something. NJF, NFJI, what? R/I had a stroke. I'm ready when you are. Awesome. Later, Marsh. Bye, Marshall. We'll be back soon. Bye, Em. Later, Fee. Marshall waved as the girls walked out of the door. The drive to Gummy's house was a long one, and barely knowing the redhead, Fiona found herself searching for a topic of conversation, though the redhead seemed quiet. Fiona? Yeah. Have you ever felt... I don't know, it's strange. Never mind. The redhead said, brushing her bangs from her eyes and focusing back on the road. Fiona, however, was interested to hear what the girl had to say. No, tell me, have I ever felt what? The blonde asked as amber-colored eyes met blue ones. Have you ever felt different, like, felt as if you changed somehow? I feel like I'm a completely different person from when I left, and not in a good way, and now, I don't know. I told you it's strange, Ember said with a sigh. Actually, I do understand, Fiona said quietly. I've been feeling the same way myself. Ever since I met Marshall, I've gotten more, I don't know, I guess you could say subdued, maybe, the blonde said, softly looking out of the window. What do you mean? Ember asked, looking to face the blonde, who was still gazing out of the window. Well, before Marshall, before my parents, I was in the foster system. I have been for as long as I can remember. They told me my parents died in some kind of house fire, I think, but I'm not too sure of that. I was told multiple stories, but the fire one was the most common. Because it was only me. I felt like the only person I could trust and depend on was myself. For the longest time, I isolated myself from other people. I would get into so many fights, and every time they would send me to another family until it just stopped being because of my fighting. If I didn't acknowledge my foster parents, they sent me away. If I didn't speak to them, they sent me away until I was classified under the category of troubled cases. So I withdrew, closed myself off from every possible person, and this went on for years. If if I wasn't closed up, I was explosively angry and would get into fights. This went on until I met Marshall. Ah, so Marshall changed you for the better, Ember said, smirking at the blonde before returning to the road. You could say that. It's funny because he just refused to not be my friend. The first day we met, we fought over a strawberry donut, Fiona said with a laugh. We talked. He asked where I was from. And I told him that I was a foster kid, and he told me that I could be a part of his family, that we could be friends, and that even if I moved, we don't have to see each other every day to be friends. He won me over just like that, Fiona said with a laugh, wiping away the stray tear in the corner of her eye. In the months that followed, I could feel all my anger and frustration leaving me. I smiled more, I laughed more, and everything was all right. For the first time in a very long time, I was happy and content. My foster mother started working overtime, and everything went downhill from there. Amber watched as Fiona grew quiet. What happened? It seemed like everything was going great, the redhead said curiously, tilting her head to look at the blonde before looking back at the road again. My foster father happened. After my foster mother began working late, he started acting differently. First it was just looks, though then it seemed like innocent things, though now that I look back on it, I know it wasn't. He'd brush by me in the hallway, press against me if I was doing dishes, and he needed to get in the cabinet a bunch above the sink, touch my shoulder and neck. All those little things building up until I finally noticed it. The looks he'd give me. It's like there was just this look in his eyes that creeped me out. Marshall knew something was wrong. He always knows. I don't know how, but he does. That day he told me to be careful. Go over to his house if I needed to. And if my foster dad tried something on me, to punch him in the throat. Oh, Glob, don't tell me that creep touched you, the redhead said in shock, watching as Fiona nodded. He pinned me to the couch, and I'd never felt so weak, ever. I'd fought so many people, but they were all around my age, slightly stronger or as strong as me. Never an adult, not a man. Boys, too, yeah, but he was so much stronger than me that it terrified me to the point where I could barely move. So I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed. I don't think I've ever made a sound like that, she said softly, thinking into her thoughts. Well, what happened? Now Fiona laughed half-heartedly. I did what Marsh told me to do. I hit him right in the throat. Then I ran to my room, hopped out the window, and ran right to Marsh's house. I stayed with him for a few days until the foster system caught up with me. I still don't know how they found out where I was, but that time I spent with Marshall, those times hanging around with him, and the very short time I spent living with him, I don't know, it just felt like for the first time in my life I could just truly relax and let my guard down. I felt like I never had to be afraid or scared because I knew he'd keep me safe and because I have him and now my parents. That feeling just never went away. Now I'm afraid that I'm so sure that someone will come to save me that if something happens to any of them, I won't be able to do a thing to stop it. Fiona said, facing Ember, who was looking curiously at her as they came to a stop at a light. So, because you've gotten comfortable and know that other people will help you in your battles, you feel like you won't be able to help them if they need it, or help yourself if you're alone. The redhead asked, watching as Fiona sat quietly, assessing her questions silently. Yeah, I guess that's how I feel, Fiona said after several quiet moments. You're right, that is strange. I'm kind of the same, I guess. Though background wise, it's the polar opposite. Me and my brother would always fight. That was our thing. And when I say fights, I mean all out brawls. You know Iggy has a short fuse. He'd always blow up and we'd end up swapping blows until our mum would tan both our hides, she said with a laugh. I guess I'm afraid that since I left, I might not be as strong as I used to be. I think I'm afraid that I've gotten soft, weak maybe, she said as she turned down the long and familiar driveway. The truck finally came to a stop, and the two girls jumped out, strolling to the front door. Now that it was daylight, Fiona took the time to actually appreciate the view of the large mansion she'd been in the night before. Ember didn't even bother knocking on the door, and tried the handle, breezing through the doors like she'd owned the place. Fiona had a feeling that just maybe Ember was looking for a fight with her brother. There was something in her eyes, something she'd seen in FPs a few times, though she couldn't name it. It was this raw, fiery determination, and the feeling was absolutely radiating off her. So, my parents tell me that my brother's picked up drinking, yeah? She asked, looking at Fiona, who simply nodded, remembering how drunk Ignitus had been the previous night. Shame, I'd hoped. Shame. I'd hoped to kick his ass, but it'll probably be to his disadvantage if he's hung over, she said, walking through the house. After going through the entire first floor, they exited the back and spotted FP lying on a stone bench with a pillow over his head, being berated by Bubba, who scowled and walked away. Ember simply smiled and waved at the strawberry blonde, who looked surprised to see the two girls, but waved back. Nodding her head in the direction of her brother, the redhead smiled, and understanding, Bubba left them to get her unruly twin off the property. Walking up, she nudged his shoulder. Come on, up you get. Leave me alone, he growled, holding the pillow tightly over his head. Ignitus, get the hell up, Ember growled, tugging at his shirt, nearly making him fall off the bench. Piss off, he snapped, flinging out his arm and catching his sister in the stomach, making her gasp. Fiona watched in shock as Ember bristled with rage. Ignitus fewer flint, the girl growled, driving her elbow right into his stomach, making him gasp in shock and began coughing, desperate for air. Crap! Emma! He choked out, tossing the pillow at her as he tried crawling away from the enraged girl he'd struck. Get out of here, psycho! You jerk! Really, that's all you can say is oh crap? How about an apology? She said she shouted, storming towards her brother, who continued scrambling away. Why should I? You were bothering me. FP snapped before realizing his mistake, just as he hit the fence at the end of the yard. Thala gu tag nu gala trustar, Amber shouted, cracking her knuckles. I don't know what that means, he yelped as she kicked him hard on his leg and began punching her cowering brother. I said go to hell, you bastard, she growled, still beating on him. Shit, Em, stop it, he yelped as she hit his shoulder. Not until you apologize. Never. Crap. Ah! Fiona stared in shock, watching as FP began screaming like a girl. Ember had him pinned to the ground, giving him a double purple nipple through his shirt. Say it! I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Hearing this, Ember released the shrieking redhead and stood dusting her dress off, all sunshine and smiles. Good. Now that that's been established, get the hell up. It's time to go. You've been intruding on Bubba's hospitality for far too long, Iggy. For far too long, Iggy. FP's eyes met Fiona's and his face burned pink with embarrassment. He knew she'd watched him get his butt kicked by his sister. Hey, Fee, he said, looking anywhere but at her. I won't tell Marshall, she said with a smirk, watching as he rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, right, he said as he walked past her and towards his truck. Aw, my bro's embarrassed, Ember smirked, slinging her arm over Fiona's shoulder, giving FP time to get to the truck. Remember what we were talking about on the ride here, Em? Fiona asked as they leisurely began strolling back to FP's truck. How I felt like I had changed and was afraid to face it, essentially? The redhead asked, tilting her head to face Fiona. Yeah, did you change? Were you any different than you used to be? Yeah, I did change, but I'm still who I was, because I faced my demons head on, fearless and brave. The Scottish say there is no medicine for fear, but I think the English say it better. They say that despair gives courage to a coward. Now I was cowardly, not wanting to face my fear and my sadness in myself, and my weakness made me face it, Ember said, now stopping and facing the blonde to look her in the eye. Face your fear, Fiona. I know. I can see that you're strong. Do not let anyone hold power over you, because these people know you're scared. They'll hold it strong and use it against you and keep that power. Take it back. Don't be afraid to. Remember, despair gives courage to a coward, and there's no medicine for fear. Remember those sayings and face your problems head on. With that said, Ember walked away, leaving Fiona to think on the porch of Bubba's mansion. Marshall sat in his living room, strumming his guitar, waiting for Fiona to return when a knock came to his door. Getting to his feet, he walked over, opening the door, only to come face to face with his mother in a black garment bag. Ta-da! Your mother is magical, sweetie, Hannah said, beaming as Marshall opened the bag to inspect the dress and grinned in relief. You're awesome, Ma. Thanks, Marshall said, running upstairs to put the dress back on the hook next to his jacket. Coming back downstairs, he found his mother sitting uncomfortably on the couch. You know, I was thinking about our mother Sunday, she said, smiling, as Marshall sat down on the opposite side of the couch, flinging his arm across the top of it. How about you stop by at about 9:30, 10 a.m.? We'll do lunch and see a movie. Maybe buy a new couch that's not completely horrible. Why do you have this thing? Marshall simply shrugged. Okay, enough about the couch. And maybe we can talk, and if you want, I can make you dinner like old times. Marshall was surprised. It seemed like she'd put a lot of thought into it. How about we do lunch, hang out, and see where it goes from there? He asked, not wanting to hurt her feelings. The last time he'd had his mom's cooking, it was burnt and raw at the same time. How that happened was beyond him. All right, I have the first Saturday of next month already cleared off, so I'll come pick you up then, okay, sweetie? The dark-haired woman asked happily. Okay, Mom, I'll put it on the calendar. You'd better. Now I have to go to my lunch break. Now I have to go. My lunch break's almost over and I have to get back to the office. Bye, Marshall. I love you, she said, smiling softly at her son as he simply stared in surprise. I love you too, Mom. Hearing this, she beamed and gave him a hug that slowly he returned. I'll talk to you soon, Moshi. With that, Hannah stood and made her way out the door, driving off back to her office, and smiling softly, he pulled out his on-the-go journal for Simon and began writing. Hey, sis, she's been sitting there for a few minutes. Is Fiona okay? Ignitus asked as they sat in the truck. She's just thinking some things over, Iggy. Give her the time. She needs it, Ember said softly, leaning back in the passenger seat with her boots propped up on the window. I can't believe you can still kick my ass, FP said. FP pouted, rubbing his jaw ruefully, glowering at Ember, making his sister grin. I still can't believe you forced me to kick your ass, she said with a smile. Shaking his head, FP opened the door and walked from the truck. I'm going to see if she's okay. I've never seen her look so serious, the elder of the two said. as he made his way towards the blonde, watching as Bubba also exited the house, making his way to Fiona, though much to FP's annoyance, he reached her first. He scowled, watching as Fiona smiled at the thought of the pink-loving boy. How could she ever be so happy to see the very person who caused her to be sent away like she was? Now, instead of asking if she was all right, Ignitus was more interested in hearing the answer to this question. Yeah, I'm fine, Bubba. No tea is necessary. I'm just thinking about something while I have the quiet. Ah, very well then. Do you mind if I join you in your pondering, Fiona? He asked, sitting next to her, not really giving her the time to object to his presence. He scowled, seeing FP, though. I thought you were leaving, he said coldly, directing the statement to the redhead instead of the blonde. I'm a ride, FP stated flatly. Then he turned to Fiona. How can you be so buddy-buddy to Gumbutt here when he's the reason you were sent away? Hearing this, he watched as Fiona blinked in utter shock and turned to face Bubba quickly. What? The teen sat silently, avoiding her stare, and quickly Fiona looked back to FP. What? Bubba told the police where you were. He told the school police that you were at Marshall's. He's the reason that they took you away from him. The reason Marshall could have been arrested, Ignitus said harshly, crossing his arms. Fiona looked back at the boy next to her. Bubba, is he telling the truth? Again he sat silently. Bubba, answer me. Finally he faced the blonde, wincing at the hurt in her eyes. Yes, I told them where you were, but only because you can't solve your problems by running away, Fiona. Whatever problems you had with your foster family, you just had to suck it up and deal with it. You can't keep running from it. If you had done that, you never would have been sent away in the first place, he said angrily as FP glared, angrily clenching his fists. Much to his surprise, Fiona had punched Bubba hard, and it seemed that once she started, she just couldn't stop. And realizing this, Ignitus quickly pulled Fiona off him, holding her tightly around the middle, bearing the brunt of her punches and kicks for freedom. How dare you? I shouldn't have run away. I should have sucked it up and dealt with it, Fiona shouted angrily, still punching and kicking FP, trying to make him drop her as Bubba stood, stemming the flow from the bloody nose she had given him. Yes, you should have sucked it up and got over it, but instead you probably blew some small childish fight out of proportion. Ember watched the fight from the car, and hearing the words coming from the boy's mouth, her eyes widened with a sudden realization. They didn't know. Bubba for sure didn't know, but her brother was dense and probably didn't pick it up. Quickly she got out of the car and hurried over. You really want to know why I ran away? Fiona said, glaring at Gumball. If looks could kill, he'd be dead twice over. Hearing this, Ember quickly spoke up. Fiona, you don't have to tell them. No, I do, Fiona said, sounding on the verge of tears, though she was far from crying. She was angry. I know who I am. I know I'm strong, and I don't have to wonder about that anymore. There's physical and emotional strength, and I know I have both, she said, turning her gaze from Ember to Bubba. FP still held tightly, even though she'd stopped struggling. Well, out with it then. I want to know what possibly could have been so bad. My foster father tried to rape me, she said quietly, but not loud enough for him to hear, and watched as all the color. She said quietly, but loud enough for him to hear, and watched as all the color drained from Bubba's face as he stared in shock. Fiona, I don't want to hear anything from you, she snapped, cutting the bloody boy off as he stared apologetically at her. I don't need to hear how sore you are, so don't waste your breath. There was a reason I chose Marshall over you, and it's because of empathy. You've never suffered, never wanted for a thing, and struggled, but you're always trying to be everyone's judge and jury when you don't know a thing. FP, I want to go home now. Okay, Fee, that's no problem. Let's bring you back. Come on, he said softly, releasing her and watching as Fiona walked silently back to the truck and followed close behind her. Ember, however, stayed behind. I didn't know. I'd never have said that if I knew, he said pleadingly to her. Bartholomew Bubba Gumball, you disgust me and you should be ashamed. Fiona was right about you, every single word, she said, shaking her head at him and walking back to the truck. The two were sitting in the truck silently. Fee, I'm sorry that happened, FP said as Ember got in and closed the door. I don't want your pity, the blonde said quietly as the engine roared to life and the three drove down the driveway. I don't pity you, Fiona, because I know if I did, you'd have me pull over so you can kick my ass. But I am sorry that you had to go through this today, he said quietly. I know that what he said hurt your feelings, and I'm sorry I brought it up like that. I honestly thought you knew. I didn't, Fiona said stiffly, more than frustrated. Well, I gathered that much, he said, turning down a side street. I won't tell anyone either, like I ever would. Thank you, the blonde said, tuning out the new conversation that had started between the twins. Honestly, she felt better, like she wasn't so weak anymore. Maybe this had been just what she needed, the chance to prove to herself that she was strong. And as weird as this chance was, Fiona was glad it was given to her. You're nothing but grins over there. What made you so happy? Marshall asked, looking up from his base as the trio entered the dark house. Do you mind if I? FP asked as he sat easily on the couch, having learned his lesson from sleeping on it throughout the years. He watched as Fiona gave him the go ahead as the blonde grabbed a cup and filled it with chocolate milk. Awesome, so. Yeah? Marshall asked, now interested. I know something you don't know, the redhead sang, and just as Marshall was about to punch him, Ember ruined FP's fun and grinned as she leaned against the doorway. Fiona beat up Bubba. Hearing this, FP was angry and glared at his sister. You wench! Do you want another purple nopal? Not that I don't want to see FP's butt get kicked by a girl, but can we get back to the topic of Fiona and Gumball? Marshall asked, breaking up the sibling feud. This time it was FP that spoke up. Well, it was kind of my fault because I asked her why she was still friends with that jerk after he got her sent away. She didn't know that he did it, so after some choice words were said between them, Fiona tackled him. I had to pull her off when we came back. Hearing this, Marshall was shocked. Dude, really? He asked, looking at Fiona, who simply nodded. Really, I may or may not have broken his nose, she said quietly, not too particularly proud of this fact. Well, good for you. That joke's been long overdue for a good hit anyways. Fiona Marshall said, still fiddling with his bass, but watching Fiona, he noticed that she didn't seem too amused. Looking to Ember and Ignitus, they seemed to understand Marshall's silent pleas. Well, let's clear out, Iggy. I'm sure Ma will want to have some family time. I'll be back to drive you later, Fiona, Ember said, grabbing the truck keys from the table as her brother followed suit, leaving Marshall and Fiona alone in the house. Fiona, what's wrong? Nothing. It's just after not having to fight for so long, it makes me realize how much I hate it. It's weird because I love to fight, but not anymore, she said softly, moving to sit down next to Marshall as he put his bass away. Are you upset that you fought him, or are you upset that you hurt someone that was your friend? Marshall asked, having a feeling that something more than just the fight was bothering her. He hurt my feelings with what he said. He made me feel like such a coward, but I know I did the right thing, and I do feel bad that I hurt him. But I also don't because of his betrayal, and he deserved it. I don't even know how he knew, Marsh, Fiona said, not knowing how to feel. Not knowing how to feel, or to better put it, not knowing what was right to feel. Is it wrong that I feel bad for what I did? Fiona asked, waiting for Marshall's response. No, it's not wrong to feel bad or feel guilt over hurting someone, even if they did deserve it. Then why do I feel so guilty? Marshall sat and thought to himself for a moment before responding to the question with one of his own. Would you feel guilty if it was your foster father? No, of course not. He's a monster. Isn't Bubba for hurting your feelings and betraying you? Marshall asked, hoping to lead Fiona to the answer she was seeking. He's a jerk, but he's not a monster. He only did what he. Marshall watched as realization dawned upon her face and she sighed. I get it now. I feel bad for hurting him because he only did what he thought was right, not because he was trying to hurt me. I think that's what it is, Fee. He wasn't trying to be a bad person to you. It just turned out that way. Hearing this, Fiona nodded. Do you feel better? I do. Thanks, Marshall, she said with a smile, leaning over to give him a kiss on the cheek. Good, because that's what I'm here for, Marshall said, pulling her close and kissing the blonde, who smiled and kissed him back. She didn't know how she did it, but Marshall always had a way to make her feel better. Okay, that was like a long chapter. That was a long chapter. Um, I was tripping over my words a lot when reading that one. I'll be right back with another chapter. I mean, definitely want to read some more of this, and I want to read some more of some other books too. I have other books to read, and I'm already in the middle of like 10 different reading projects, and there's also ones that I want to continue from my original channel that I know I started on my other channel, Vanellope's Corner, that I haven't finished yet, so I want to do that too. And yeah, I want to do that too. But anyway, that was like a really long chapter, so. But I love you, and I will see you all in the next video, which will be in a moment. I'll be right back. Alright, I was actually gone longer than I thought I was gonna be. I expected to just get some more water, but I felt the urge to go to the bathroom. And I used to have, when I was a kid, I used to have like a nervous stress habit of holding it in for like days or weeks at a time. So it could have been weeks. I'm not sure. I don't know because I don't know. I don't remember it a lot because I only did it until I was like 9, and then they took me to the doctor because I was like so constipated that I needed a suppository. I needed to have a suppository at the hospital. Like, we had to go to the emergency room in order to get me a suppository because of how constipated I was. So we sat there for like a 4 hour wait, and then I finally got a suppository, and they also gave me some suppositories to like take at home. And I had to take an entire course of suppositories because I kept holding it in so much that I would become extremely constipated to the point where, like I said, I had to go to the hospital for that. And it wasn't fun. And so, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I felt a lot better after because, like, all I remember before is being in a lot of pain, and then after I was singing the Coyote theme song, so, like, I was good to go. I don't like suppositories, but, like, I was good to go. And like, yeah, so now if I feel the urge to go, I try and go as soon as possible. Like, I don't wait around to see what's gonna happen. Unless it's diarrhea and I have to take some anti-diarrhea meds before I go to the bathroom, but like, I don't hold it in till the next day or anything. I go like same day within like, within not long of feeling it. Like, I make sure that I don't go to bed if I have to poop. So, like, because when I was, because yeah, I don't want to end up in the hospital with a suppository again. Anyway, enough discussion of poop. Let's read the book. Hang on. I gotta actually get this. I gotta get this set up. Hmm. Okay, this looks like a shorter chapter. It's hard to tell though. Yeah, I think it's a shorter chapter. Okay. Chapter 25, Glorious Phoenix. Bruh. The ride back home was short. Riding with Ember and FP, Fiona had more than enough distraction to barely notice the length of time it took to get home. Saying goodbye to Marshall was as tough as always, but with his promise to call her that night and to visit soon, it made it easier to leave. After the twins dropped her off, they drove 3 houses over to visit their grandmother. Fiona waved a final goodbye before entering her house. Almost immediately, Kate ran up to the blonde, purring happily at her return, and with a smile, Fiona crouched down, picking up the fluffy cat. "Hey, Cake," she said with a smile, as the cat nuzzled her head with its own while purring loudly. As the cat nuzzled her head with her own while purring loudly. "Fiona, is that you?" her mother called out. "Yeah, Mom, I'm home." "Oh, good timing. Oh, good timing, sweetie. Stopped by too. He's Hang on. He's downstairs. Dinner will be ready in an hour," Ellen said as Fiona walked into the kitchen, giving her a hug. "Awesome. No Jake?" the blonde asked, stroking the cat's fur. "Unfortunately not. Apparently he's spending some time with his girlfriend." "Oh, okay," Fiona said with a smile, as she reached into the cabinet and pulled out a can of cat food for Cake, who eagerly wound herself around Fiona's ankles, mewing excitedly as the blonde emptied her can into the dish. "Finn's in the family room?" "Yes, ma'am. All right, I'll go bug her." "All right, I'll go bug him," Fiona said with a grin, leaving the kitchen and heading down the stairs to the family room, where she spotted her brother sitting on the couch typing away at his laptop. Big bro, what? Hey, big bro, what you doing?" "Huh? Oh, nothing. Just working on some last-minute homework online," he said, looking up from the screen. "Did you just get back?" "Yeah," Fiona said, sitting down the couch on the opposite end. "When did you get here?" "Last night. Jake's girlfriend lady just got back from Korea, so I figured that I'd give them some space. It was either that or watch them suck their faces off, so I just chose the lesser of two evils," the blonde said with a laugh. "It's cool though. I don't mind visiting Mom and Dad. Besides, I get to hang out with everyone here too," Finn said, pausing as a little tune began playing. As he quickly dug out his phone from his pocket, checking the screen, he answered his phone. "Hey, what's up? Ah, why are you yelling?" "Marcy, what?" "No, I'm in town actually." "Huh?" "Yeah, I'll meet you there, okay. Yeah, bye." "Is everything okay?" Fiona asked after the sudden phone call. I don't know. Marcy seems pretty upset, but I'm gonna meet her a few blocks away at the park. Wanna come? Yeah, she said quickly, getting up and following Finn up the stairs. Ma, we're running out. Be back soon. Finn called out. No, dinner's going to be ready in less than 20 minutes. Ellen said, coming from the kitchen with a rag in her hand, wiping them dry. We're having a mercy emergency, Ma. We'll be back soon. Fiona watched as a look of understanding came over her features. Okay, sweetie, be back, and if you need to bring her back for dinner, do so. I swear that girl doesn't eat enough, she said, watching as her son nodded and closed the door behind her two children. Fiona followed after Finn as they headed to the park, passing by FP's grandmother's house. She noticed the fire in the back and shook her head. FP would do anything to start a fire, it seemed. So, judging by Mom's reaction, this has happened before? Fiona asked. Fiona asked as they turned the corner. Yeah, most Dad don't get along well. He wants her to run his company, and she wants to be free. He's never around, but she wants him to be. But when he is, all they do is fight, and it hurts her a lot more than she lets on. They're all they have, and they can't get along. It's sad, Finn said as they turned another corner, the entrance to the park now in view. Be quiet, and you can hear us singing when we get over there, he said as they entered the park, walking towards the largest tree, Fiona following after him. As they approached, Fiona could hear the mellow tunes of Marceline's bass guitar. What is that she's playing? Fiona asked softly. Crap, it's the Fries song. Fiona was confused, but before she could ask, she could hear Marceline singing. As she looked around, the dark-haired girl was nowhere to be found, though her singing and music was emanating from the area. My cursed blood is your cursed blood. Come on back and be my bud. I can count your visits on my fingertips. Come back and give me presents from your business trips. Daddy, why did you father me if all you want to do is bother me? Don't you know that I love you when I only want to see more of you? Daddy, do you even love me? Well, I wish you'd show it because I wouldn't know it. What kind of dad? Marcy, are you okay? Finn asked, looking up into the tree, unable to listen to her sad song any longer. Suddenly the music stopped and Marceline's voice was heard above her, and walking over, Fiona spotted her in the tree. Hey, Finn. Hey, Fiona, she said softly, still strumming mindlessly on her bass guitar. Have another fight with your dad? Finn said, making it more of a statement than question. Yeah. Want to come over? He asked, nodding towards his house. Yeah. Fiona watched as Marceline handed Finn her bass and jumped from the branch she'd been resting on, landing gracefully on the ground, taking her bass from his arms. Sorry, guys, I'm just a bit bummed. My dad forgot my birthday last week, and when I finally told him, we got into a huge fight, so I left, she said as they walked back towards the house. Things will get better, Marcy. Sure they will, Finn. Marceline, it's great to see you, sweetie. I think the last time you had dinner, half of your head was shaved, Ellen said, with a smile, owning a smoke from Marceline. Yeah, Mrs. Wright, I think you flipped more than my dad did, the dark-haired girl said, eating a slice of tomato. Well, someone has to flip when you do something. Someone has to flip when you do something off the wall, and I'm up for the challenge. Jake and Finn have Jake and Finn have finally balanced out, and I don't think Fiona's going to be doing anything too radical anytime soon. Hearing this, the three young adults at the table exchanged glances, and Marceline smirked at Fiona. You know, I heard Fiona was thinking of dyeing her hair blue, Marceline said shyly, watching as Ellen looked to her daughter in shock. What? Fiona, what? Yeah, maybe I'll mix in some purple in there too, Fiona said, playing along now, fingering her long blonde locks. You're not serious. She's not serious. Ma, Fiona looks pretty serious, Finn said, holding back a laugh and hiding a smirk as he took a bite of food. It seemed that the entire table except Ellen got that gist that it was a joke, because even Steve pitched in. I think you'd know. I think you'd look nice with blue hair. You can put the purple on the ends, he said, only to have his arm slapped by his wife. No! Fiona, no! At this, the blonde couldn't hold back her laughter as Marceline and Finn laughed right along with Fiona. We were kidding. There was no way Fiona would dye her hair blue. She likes it blonde too much, Marceline said with a laugh. Yeah, Ma, I was just playing along with Marcy, Fiona said, trying to control her laughter and failing miserably. Oh, you all suck. At this, Steve couldn't help but laugh. Oh, Ellen, they're kids. This is what they do. Cause us heck. Everything they say that comes off crazy or foolish, just take it with a grain of salt. That's what I do, he said with a grin as he shook his head. So, Fiona, off the topic of your potentially blue hair, I saw that Ignitus dropped you off this time. No Marshall for a visit today? No, not today. He has to talk to Simon and Billy, so he's kind of busy. And it wasn't Ignitus that dropped me off this time. It was his sister, Ember. But he came too, though. Hearing this, Finn looked up. You mean geeky-looking Ember? Huh? No, she didn't look geeky to me, Fiona said, looking at her brother and taking a sip of her iced tea. Well, I haven't seen her in almost 4 years, so I wouldn't be surprised if she's changed, Finn said with a laugh. But she'll always be geeky-looking Ember to me. Finn, you weren't so cute 4 years ago either. If I recall correctly, long hair and pimples were involved, Marceline said with a wink. Oh, and your polar bear hat. Not to mention you were short, too. Okay, Marcy, sheesh. What did I ever do to you? Finn said, nudging the girl next to him. You're being mean, you little band geek, she said, elbowing him back. My musical talents allowed me to get the ladies, Marcy. You played the tambourine, Finn. That's just as bad as playing sleigh bells. I played sleigh bells, Fiona said as the two next to her turned to face the blonde. One of the schools I went to had a Christmas celebration. Marceline and Finn continued to stare at Fiona. It was the only musical instrument left. Don't judge me, she said, her cheeks burning red and her cheeks burning red in embarrassment. Well, as long as you're proud of that feat, at least you can sing, Marceline said playfully. Yeah, the blonde girl said with a grin as the two adults at the table just shook their heads. Well, it was nice hanging out with you guys, but I think I'm gonna go. Maybe I can have an adult conversation with my dad now that I'm cooled off. Hold on a sec, Finn can walk you home, Steve said, watching as Finn began gathering his dishes. No, I'm fine. Nah, just give me a sec to put these in the sink, Finn said as he walked from the room quickly, followed by his sister. Me too, Fiona chimed, not wanting to be left out as she dumped her dishes in the sink alongside her brothers. Fine, I guess you guys can walk me home, Marcy said with an exaggerated sigh. The walk to Marceline's house didn't take long, and before they knew it, the two blondes were already on their way back. Man, the more I'm away, the more I miss hanging with the girls and all my old friends. I would imagine it sucks going from a place where you know everyone to a place where you're surrounded by strangers, Fiona said, knowing the feeling all too well. They walked in silence for quite a while, but when they turned onto their street, the sight of two people brawling met their eyes. Oh crap, they really do fight like cats and dogs, Fiona said, as she and Finn hurried over to break up the siblings. Leaping into the fray, Fiona tackled the first person she could, and Finn grabbed the other, bringing the fight to a halt. Glob, Fiona, if I knew you felt this way, I would have made myself more available, FP said with a provocative smirk, earning himself a slap by the blonde. Not in a million years, you brat, Fiona said quickly, standing to her feet, and noticing how her brother was unusually silent, she turned to face him. Finn, you can let go now. Are you okay? Amber said, watching as Finn's face began tinting red. Blinking, he quickly released the redhead, but continued to stare as her own cheeks began staining red in embarrassment. Seeing the look Finn had on his face, FP scowled and pulled Ember back by her arm. Take a picture, it'll last longer, jeez, he said, pulling her along as he stomped back to the house. Finn, what was that? Fiona asked, not knowing whether to laugh or be concerned. She's beautiful, he said quietly, blinking quickly. Are you okay? Yeah, I wasn't expecting her to be that the last time I saw her that the last time I saw her she was chubby with braces and glasses, he said in an odd voice. Yeah, and if what Marcy said was true, the last time she saw you, you were pimply, short, and had a polar bear hat. You both grown up. No, I don't get it. I can't even. Finn was lost for words as he stared at the house the twins had disappeared into. You like her, Fiona teased, watching as the blush returned tenfold on her brother's face. No, you do. I am so telling Mom, she said, running towards the house, laughing as her brother took off after her. You'd better not, Fiona. I swear to Glob. Once they were inside, and after a relentless amount of teasing, Fiona promised not to say anything, and making her way upstairs, she hid away in her room while Finn went back down to the family room, and finding his laptop, he attempted to finish his homework, only to be distracted from a number he didn't know. Hey Finn, it's Ember. I got your number from Fiona. I hope that's okay. I just wanted to say that it was nice to see you again, and I hope we can hang out sometime, and I'm sorry my brother was rude to you. Reading this, he stared in shock before returning the text quickly. Yeah, that's fine. It was good to see you too, Ember. And it's okay, brothers get protective of their siblings, so I'm cool with that. I'm gonna be here for the rest of the week. We can hang out if you want to. Let me know. Quickly, Finn sent the message, then reread it. Crap, did the exclamation mark make him sound desperate? Now she was gonna think he was some kind of loser desperate for friends. Crap. His phone buzzed once again. I'd love to. X. I'm completely available. What did that mean? Available for the week to hang out or available as in single? Did this count as mixed messages? What the hell? Me too. I finished my work and I'm totally open all week until I go back to school. I have no plans. Why did I say that? Now she knows I'm a planless loser. What the crap am I doing? I'm already screwing this up. Quickly, he sent a follow-up text. Movies at 2, my treat. Finn waited less than a minute for a reply. It's a date. Awesome. I look forward to it. That night, Finn didn't get much sleep. That was really fun and cute. It's just a nice little, like, shipping fluff piece thing. Adorable. Alright, I'll be back with another chapter. Okay, on to chapter 26. Hang on. Ugh. Chapter 26, A Change of Heart. You know, Hannah, you really changed. I swear at the rate you'll be you'll be mother of the year in no time, Ellen said with a smirk as she sat across from a friend in the cafe. Well, honestly, we have Marshall to thank for that, and not my son either, the dark-haired woman said, taking a drink of her coffee while Ellen stared at her in confusion. I don't understand. What do you mean? Like, it's because of your husband? She asked, her eyebrows drawn close together in confusion. Hannah smiled softly and leaned forward. Yes, because of my husband. I don't know if it was a dream, or if I'm losing my mind, or if it was his ghost. Ellen, I'm choosing to believe that what I saw was real. Well, what happened? You have me interested, the blonde said, watching as Hannah picked up her coffee and leaning back in her seat with a sigh. It happened after the kids went to prom a month ago. 1 month earlier. Dr. Petrikov, I see no point in doing this. The real worry is Marshall, not me, Hannah said, sitting down on the chair in the large lush office, glancing over to the corner of the room, blinking in shock, before looking back to her son's doctor with a shake of her head. Well, I agree that Marshall is a worry, Mrs. Abadir. I also believe that you are also in need of some help. You have a great amount of bottled up emotions. That's completely evident, even through Marshall and how you treat him, Simon said, staring at the woman over the edge of his glasses. Reaching over, he picked up a file and began scanning through it. Hannah watched as he leafed through the packet of papers before handing one to her. What is this? What is this? She asked, accepting the page and glancing at it before looking back to the doctor. It's Marshall's journal. It's Marshall's journal entry number 69. Read it, please, he said, watching as Mrs. Abadir crossed her legs, her eyes scanning through the page. Simon watched as she smiled, if what she did could be counted as a smile. Just barely one could see the corners of her lips slightly upturned. I remember this one. You taught him how to dance. Thank you for that, Hannah said with a soft smile. That's not what I wanted to point out, Mrs. Abadir. I know, the $20,000. No. Hearing this, she paused, her silence letting him continue. Let me direct you to the bottom of the page. It's a simple line, simple but powerful, he said, clearing his throat before reading from the journal entry. Everything seems like it's finally coming together, and for the record, I am happy I got to see my mom. Mrs. Abadir, the one making progress here is not only Marshall but you. I believe you would benefit from a session or two. Dr. Petrikov, please not again with this, Hannah said, standing to her feet. I'm executive. I'm a CEO. I don't have time for therapy. I'm very busy, she said, now pacing. I barely have time for these meetings, and everything I do must be scheduled at least a month ahead of time, she said, sending a scathing glower to the empty corner of the room. If I may make a suggestion, Mrs. Abadir, please call me when you are free. Those will count as our sessions. I'm concerned for you as Marshall's only living parent. I wish for you to be in sound mind and spirit. Hearing this, she finally sighed, standing in place. Okay, fine. I'll find a time to call you on my lunch break tomorrow. Are we finished? She asked, looking back to the man at the desk, reading the name plaque before him for the millionth time, looking to the corner of the room. For the millionth time, looking to the corner of the room. For now, yes, Mrs. Abadir. I'll be awaiting your call, and may I ask what you keep looking at the corner for? Pausing, Hannah looked back at Simon. No particular reason, she said quickly, looking back at him as she once again looked into the corner. Very well, please drive safely and have a good evening, Simon said, watching as Hannah nodded and exited the door. Hannah walked down the hallway, her heels clicking on the hard floor as she made her way to the elevator before pressing the button. So, are you really going to ignore me, Hannah Banana? The familiar smooth voice said as Hannah scowled before stomping her way down the stairs, the elevator taking too long for her liking. You're just in my mind. I'm just seeing things, she muttered, making it to the first floor and hearing the elevator's faint ding back on the third floor. With a sigh, she began crossing the lobby. Hey, Hannah, look it! She stopped in the middle of the lobby and turned, looking for the source of the sound she swore was only in her head, and watched, making eye contact with the receptionist, before the vase on her desk toppled to the floor, shattering. Hannah gasped along with the receptionist as familiar laughing made her heart skip a beat. Poor woman, now she thinks you're psychic, he said, wiping a tear from his eye. Woo, that was funny, he said, leaning against Hannah, who, much to her shock, actually felt the weight of his elbow on her shoulder. Turning, she quickly hurried from the building, storming across the parking lot. What? Hannah, come on, it was just a joke. Don't get your panties twisted. My panties aren't twisted. I'm not supposed to be seeing you because you're dead, Marshall, she shouted, turning to face the apparition she'd left behind her. Her husband was just the same as she'd remembered. The same unruly hair, goofy grin, and twinkling eyes. He hadn't aged a day. And your point is, you should have known at some point you wouldn't be able to get rid of me, Hannah, not even in death, he said, now leaning on the hood of the car. Stop following me! Stop talking to me! Just stop it! She shouted, getting into the car and slamming the doors shut and locking them, watching as Marshall tried getting into the car too. Hannah, babe, I can't believe you found my weakness. Locked doors. If it works, it works, Hannah said, rolling her eyes and starting the car and driving off. Glancing in her rearview mirror, she sighed before looking back at the road. Hello? I'm a ghost, his voice said, and looking over, she spotted Marshall sitting in the passenger seat with his feet up and his arms folded behind his head leisurely. Hannah continued to drive in silence, listening as he hummed merrily beside her. Finally, she pulled into the parking garage of her building. Together they sat in silence for the longest time. Marshall, what do you want from me? She whispered softly, looking over only to stare in surprise at the empty seat beside her. Feeling a sharp stab of loneliness, and with a sigh, she got out of the car, entering the elevator and typing in the code that brought her to the penthouse suite. Everything was as she'd left it, and after taking a shower, she exited the bathroom wearing only a robe and began digging through her dresser for pajamas, and after putting on underclothes, she dug out an old t-shirt. Hot damn, you still got it going on. Whirling around, she once again spotted Marshall, though now he was lounging on the bed. Hell, I knew you were good looking, but like wine, you've only improved with age, he said with a wink, making her blush crimson. You know, I always loved watching your emotions play on your face. Why are you here? She asked desperately, running her fingers through her wet hair and snatching up a shirt she put on. She put it on. Aw, I was enjoying the flow show. Marshall, answer me. I have to earn my wings, of course, and my halo, too. I was just too mean in my past life, and this will grant me entrance into heaven, Marshall said, oozing sarcasm, though spotting her glare cleared his throat. Okay, all kidding aside, I have a job to do, he said, jamming his hands into his pockets. All right, what the hell's it got to do with me? Hannah asked, trying to keep her emotions in check. This was just in her head. Everything was all in her head. Obviously, she's suffering some kind of psychotic break, causing Marshall to be here due to some psychotic manifestation. Well, everything, Hannah. It has everything to do with you. You're so different. You're not the Hannah I remember, Marshall said sadly, watching as she let out a sob, trying so hard to keep her emotions in check. Snatching a brush from the vanity mirror, she began raking it through her hair, venting her frustrations on the dark strands. People change, Marshall. That's life, Hannah fumed. Yeah, people change for the better, and you definitely missed that train, he said, sounding uncharacteristically rough. What the hell happened that made you so messed up? Marshall asked, and as the woman before him seemed to explode, her anger and anguish washed over him. Almost immediately, the brush in her hand was flung at him. You happened! You said you would always be there for me, and you lied! You lied to me! You said we'd be together forever, and I believed you! She sobbed, finally allowing the cathartic release of tears to flow after 13 years. You said you'd be here. You said you'd never leave me. You broke your promise, she screamed, stomping her foot, now pacing angrily around the room, while Marshall stayed still in shock. I waited for you for hours, hours, and then I get that phone call, and just like that, you're gone, she screamed, grabbing the first thing she could get her hands on and whipping it at him, watching as he quickly dodged each thing she threw at him, freezing with a gasp only when she felt the velvet ring box in her hand. Clutching it tightly, she held it to her chest, and pausing, she opened the box to see his wedding ring, glancing at the one that had not once ever left her finger. I never even got to say goodbye, she uttered, sounding completely heartbroken. I didn't get to say goodbye, and I hate you for that. I hate you so much, Marshall, Hannah said, her eyes rimmed red and her face wet with tears. Marshall walked over to her, watching as she flinched at his touch, as his fingers touched her cheek, tilting her head to look up at him. No, you don't, Hannah. You're hurt, but you don't hate me, he said softly. You never could hate me. Not ever, and Glob knows you tried to. Many times, even before I was pushing up daisies, he said with a grin. Why are you doing this to me, Marshall? She sobbed, leaning her cheek into the palm of his hand. You're just going to be gone again, and I'm going to be alone again, she said, softly relishing the feel of his hand against her face as his thumb wiped away a tear. Because it's time you dealt with all these emotions, babe. You're going to kill yourself if you don't take care of yourself emotionally. Right now, our son is an emotional orphan. You are not the only person who lost someone, Hannah. Marshall's hurting too, but he's dealt with it. Everyone has everyone but you, he said softly. So is that your job? To make me feel with to make me deal with the fact that you're never coming back? And you're doing so by coming back and rubbing it in my face that I'll never see you again? Really? No, that's too complicated and cruel for me to even touch, let alone comprehend what you just said. No, my job is easier. I'm here to bring you back. What? She asked, confusion evident in her voice. I'm here to bring my Hannah back. Our son only knows the worst of you. That's not who he should know. And how are you going to do that? How are you going to bring me back? Hearing this, Marshall smiled, closing his eyes. He rested his forehead against that of his wife's, feeling as hot tears ran down the hand resting on her cheek. Easy, I'm going to make you remember everything. You're so angry with me, baby, but that's only because you remember the bad parts we shared together. All of that. Every inch of it pales so much into insignificance in comparison to all the good we shared together. Don't you remember it? How we met? We had a one-night stand, she whispered, remembering only leaving in the morning after waking up alone. There was so much more to that night, so much you locked away, he said softly, feeling pained, as that she truly pushed away so much, all to save herself the pain of his memory. Show me then. Make me remember, Marshall. I want to remember, Hannah said, pleading. We met at my concert. You were at the bar and I was having a drink, he said softly, and closing her eyes she could see everything just like the day it had happened. The venue was packed, people were everywhere, and this was only the fourth stop in their cross-country tour. It was official, the Scream Kings were on the map, and with a song in the top 10 charts, they'd made a name for themselves. Walking over to the bar, he caught the tender's attention. Yo, can I get a Heineken or something? Appletini, please, a woman's voice said next to him. Appletini, huh? He asked, looking over to see a beautiful green-eyed woman seated next to him. The moment she saw him, her eyes widened in surprise. You're Marshall, the lead singer of... Shh, he said, looking around conspiratorially. I always like it best just after I finish a set and change my clothes. It gives me a few minutes of peace, he said with a grin that made the woman's heart race. So, what's your name? You know mine, so it's only fair. Hannah, my name's Hannah. She could feel her heart racing in excitement. She couldn't believe she was talking to the country's newest musical sensation. Well, Hannah, how'd you enjoy the show? It was amazing. I absolutely love your music, she said excitedly, realizing that she'd gotten quite loud and blushed in embarrassment. Sorry, I don't want to blow your cover, she said with a whisper, and mere moments later the bartender placed their drinks down in front of them, and Marshall watched as Hannah pulled out her wallet. Hey, put these on my tab, he said, watching as the man nodded. Oh, you don't have to, really. No, it's my pleasure. Usually women scream their heads off when they realize who I am, he said, still smiling at her and keeping his voice low. Well, thank you, Marshall. Together they sat quietly talking until the sound of an excited fan spotting him caught their attention, and as a crowd formed, Hannah was bumped, knocking her drink into her lap, soaking her skirt. Quickly, he tried in vain to mop up the drink, soaking her clothes, and watched in utter shock as Marshall took his own drink, lifting it high enough so people had to back away before dumping it in his own lap. Hannah watching in complete surprise at his actions. Oh, well, crap, we're both covered in spilt drinks. Want to get out of here? Maybe get some dry clothes somewhere? He asked, tilting his head and offering his hand. You're completely absurd, she said with a laugh. Come on, you know you want to say yes to me, so let's just go, live a little, he said with a mischievous grin. With a blush, she took his hand as they exited the bar, making their way through the crowds. I never do something like this. I'm not the kind of girl who just. Suddenly, he cut her off. Hey, I said we were gonna go get some dry clothes. I mean what I say, he said with a smirk as her face tinted red. Sorry, I thought you meant. Well, I know what you thought I meant, babe. I'm a classy guy. Plus, I don't make it a thing to sleep with girls I just met. I'm a bit more romantic than that. Besides, we both look like we've wet ourselves. Hearing this, Hannah laughed. You're right, we do. That's not very attractive, she said, unable to hold back her laughter. A very good point. So where's the clothes store that's open? There's a 24-hour there's a 24-hour plaza down the road. Maybe we could find something there. Maybe we could. Maybe we could. Come on, let's go, he said, taking her hand as they walked down the road. Hannah took this time to question Marshall more intimately. What do you hope to accomplish with your music? She asked softly as they walked along. You know, no one ever asked me that before. I guess I don't know. I want to inspire and provoke emotions. I want to better lives and make people see that they're loved. Times are hard. Somebody out there needs to know that somebody cares. That's a beautiful answer for a question no one's asked you, she asked as they entered a small store, finding the clothes section. It looks like there's only pajamas. I'm cool with that. I never saw the point of owning expensive clothes and shoes. Comfort is better than name brand in my book, he said, picking up a lacy sheer lingerie top. How's this? He asked, waggling his eyebrows at Hannah, watching as she blushed heavily once again as she fervently shook her head. Not a chance. I don't own anything remotely close to that. Ah, so you're a big t-shirts and shorts kind of girl, he asked, watching as she grabbed a t-shirt and pajama bottoms with little hearts on them. Ooh, little hearts, are you professing your love to me already, Hannah? Stop making me blush, Marshall, she said, making her way over to check out, followed by Marshall, who snatched up the clothing in her arms and dumped it all on the counter. After paying the man, they each went to the restrooms to change, Marshall now wearing a pair of pajama pants with guitars on them, and Hannah wearing her heart pajamas. So, anywhere you want to go? Marshall asked, taking her hand once again. We went to the beach and watched the stars, Hannah said softly, memories returning. After that, we went back to your hotel room. You wanted to walk me home, but I lived so far away. Don't try to be all innocent. You tried that to lull me in a false sense of security before you jumped me. It's true what they say about the quiet ones, because you, my dear, gave me the best night of my life at that point. He felt as her fist hit his chest. Stop making me blush, you jerk. I'm still mad at you. You left me with a baby, scared and alone and pregnant. That's because you were too scared to call me, he said, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I thought you gave me a fake number. You were gone in the morning, Marshall. I know, and that was wrong of me, but I left you a rose. I know. Hannah, do you remember that phone call? Do you remember what happened after you dared to call me 6 months after what we shared? I thought you'd forgotten about me by then, she whispered. Never. I thought about you every day. Do you remember what happened? I don't, but I'll try to. She was so scared and nervous. She graduated college and her tummy was barely noticeable, though her morning sickness most definitely was. The number had to be fake. It had to be a joke. Just something to placate her, especially after that one night stand 6 months ago. Nobody commits to a one night stand, especially not musicians. But he didn't need to know he was going to be a father. She'd find a way to tell him, eventually. Months had passed before she'd finally before she'd finally gotten the courage to call the number, for she'd stored it in her phone, hoping that by some chance it would be real. She listened as the phone rang, and on the third ring, a familiar voice answered the line. Hello? Marshall? The line went silent on his end, and for a moment she thought he'd hung up. Hannah? Yeah, it's me, she said, her fingers fiddling with the cord on the phone. How are you? Why didn't you call sooner? I was back in the area at least a dozen times. I would have loved to see you, he said, sounding so excited. I thought that maybe the number you gave me was a fake, but I called today, hoping to glob that it was real because I have something I really need to tell you, she said, her hand now rubbing her stomach nervously. No, it would never be fake. Well, you can see that now, but how have you been? And what's up? Is something wrong? Marshall, this is probably. No, it will be a big shock, so you might want to sit. And she softly curled up on her couch. Okay, shoot, he said, his voice serious as he sat on the edge of the couch. I. You're. I'm sorry, this is hard. It's okay, take your time. This seems to be important to you. It is, she said desperately. Okay, so take your time. Okay. They sat in silence for the better part of an hour, just listening to the other one breathing. Are you still there, Marshall? Yeah, what's up, Hannah? I'm pregnant. And he's yours. Again, she only heard silence until the loud sound of the phone clattering, and a thud met her ear. Marshall? You fainted dead away. Hearing this, Marshall laughed. I did. I was so shocked. Never in a million years did I expect that. The guys thought you were out for money, that you were lying, that it couldn't have been mine, but when you offered to pay for a DNA test, I think that got it through their heads. You were so mad when I said that, Hannah said softly. Of course I was. It's because I knew that baby was mine. He had to be mine because he was special. There was just something about you. You never questioned him, did you? Aunt Hannah asked, honestly curious. Never, Hannah, not once did I ever question him. I wouldn't. He looked just like me, and the moment he came into this world, he was mine. The moment I learned of his existence, he was mine, and that was it. You were the one who got away, and I was not losing you again, he whispered. I miss you so much, Marshall. I miss everything about you. I know. Do you remember the wedding? Pregnant and all, I remember every single detail of that night. Good. Do you remember when we first had Marshall diagnosed? I do. I was terrified that he would melt in the sun like a snowman, she said with a laugh. Me too. Now it's time for the big one, babe, Marshall said softly, holding his wife tightly. No, I don't want to remember. Marshall, please? You have to, Hannah. Why? She whined, sounding so childish and not caring. Because you need to heal, Marshall said softly, but in a firm voice. Please don't make me remember this, she pleaded. I can't handle this again. Baby, remembering will hurt, it will, but you will heal. Please, do this for me? I hate you, she uttered, clutching his shirt tightly. No, you don't. I know you don't. The last thing I remember is Marshall screaming for me, crying his little heart out. I was so scared for him and so happy you were safe. I knew I was dying and my heart hurt so much because I knew I'd never see you again. Glob knows how I wanted to, he whispered, closing his eyes. I was so scared. You were late coming home. You're never late. You were never late. That's why I knew something was wrong. The phone call made her heart stop. Marshall had been shot, and her son had seen it all. Marshall was hurt, and they didn't know if he was going to make it. She needed to see him. She needed to get down there before it was too late. She had to have run on every single light. She had to have run every single light on her way to the hospital, and outside were camera crews and news reporters. Ignoring them, she rushed by and into the doors as questions were shouted at her and photos were taken. She had learned to live with the paparazzi invading their privacy, scrutinizing how they raised their child. They were terrible, ignorant people, but she learned to ignore it. Racing through the hospital, she demanded to see her husband and was met with police officers. The looks on their faces said everything, and right then she knew. She didn't want to, but she knew what those looks meant. Where's my husband? She asked softly. Please, where is he? Ma'am, I'm terribly sorry. Hearing these words, her heart dropped. I'm afraid that he's passed away from the severity of his wounds. Let me see him, please. We have an officer with your son if you'd like. No. Now take me to see my husband. The doctor nodded, and Hannah followed as the doctor led her into the room. I'll give you some time alone, Mrs. Abadir. The doctor left the room, and walking over, Hannah rested her head on his cheek. He was still warm. It wasn't like anything he'd ever. It wasn't like anything she'd ever seen. She'd heard that when one passed, they looked as though they were sleeping. Marshall looked dead. You jerk, you weren't supposed to do this. You weren't supposed to die. You promised me. You promised that I'd never be alone. You promised, she shouted, hitting his arm. You lied to me. How can I live without you? You're my everything. I swear I'll never be happy again. Please come back, Marshall. Please come back. Please don't leave me, please. I can't go home without you. I can't live without you. I can't take care of Marshall alone. I can't do this alone. You said that I'd never have to worry about being alone, and now you're gone. I need you now so much, but you're not here. Finally, she turned away from him, fighting the urge to scream. Taking several breaths, she walked from the room, almost bumping into the police officer. Can you take me to my son, please? Hannah asked, her voice dead, void of any form of emotion. The officer nodded, leading the distraught woman down the hall. Oh, Glob, Marshall, don't leave me again, please. I can't lose you again. I can't be alone again, Hannah said, giving into her sobs, feeling his warmth around her, surrounding her with his love. Babe, don't for 1 second ever think you're alone. I'm always here. I'll always be with you. I'm never going anywhere. You just can't see me is all. Please, I want to see you every day, and if you can't stay, take me with you, she whispered, the pain in her heart pure agony. No, I'm not leaving our son alone. I will be with you, Hannah. I'll be with you in your heart. You'll never be alone. Trust that. Trust me. I'll never let you fall. Never. After all this time, after you being so angry, baby, let it go. I've always been here. I've never left. But I want to see you. I want to see you every day. I want to touch you. I want to feel you. And I want to be with you every day. Marshall, it's not fair. Hannah, it's going to be hard. Really hard. But now, all you have left to do is release your anger and let your heart heal. You've become so cold, and it's not you. I know that you're afraid to love our son, because if anything ever happened to him, it would be like losing me all over again. And I know it would kill you, but he's in danger every day, and shouldn't you be there for him? Especially when I can't. Marshall knows I'm around, Hannah. He knows and he can feel it. I wanted you to see who you've become, because it wasn't you, not the you I knew. Marshall, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't be. You're right. I broke my promise. I told you we'd be together forever, and I couldn't keep that promise. But I'm keeping it now. I'll never leave you. You might not always see me, but I'm here. You're my love, my one true love, and you have my heart, he said softly, smiling sadly at her. It's time for you to go, isn't it? Hannah murmured, dreading the answer. Yeah, but I'll still be here. At least I can say goodbye this time, she said softly, her hands running through his hair as he leaned in, close, kissing her deeply, and slowly they parted. I love you, Marshall. Oh, babe, I love you too. Give our son my love. I will, she said softly, sitting on the bed and laying down, feeling as the other side sank down and arms wrapped around her. I'll never let you go, so smile. For me, Hannah, smile, he said, watching as she closed her eyes, smiling softly. Sing to me, she whispered, hearing his soft voice in her ear. I will. Some day when I'm awfully low in the world, when the world is cold, I feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. Oh, it was their wedding song. Of course it would be. Fresh tears flooded her eyes as he continued singing the slow song. Oh, but you're so lovely with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There's nothing for me to love you and the way you look tonight. With each word your tenderness grows, tearing my fear apart, and that laugh that wrinkles your nose touches my foolish heart. Lovely never ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? Because I love you, just the way you look tonight. She barely heard the end of the song. Her eyes were heavy. She was warm and surrounded by the smell of her husband, but giving in she was soon met with sleep. Her morning was routine. She was up, bathed, dressed, and out the door in less than an hour and on her way to work. And entering the tall building in the city, she entered the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. The day passed quickly, and it seemed that in the blink of an eye, lunchtime had already rolled around. Picking up the phone as promised, she dialed the direct number for the doctor and waited. Dr. Petrikov speaking. Dr. Petrikov, it's Hannah Abbott here. Yes, I've been awaiting your call. Do tell, is there anything you would like to share? Nothing important about me. Let's talk about my son. So you're telling me that the ghost of your dead husband visited you and made you right your wrongs? Ellen asked with very much effort not to sound like a disbelieving, condescending joke of a friend. I'm saying that my husband healed my heart, Hannah said, smiling softly at her friend. "E- even gone, he's still with me. He still knows that I need him, that our son needs him. Glob, Ellen, this is going to sound stupid, but Marshall's love, it's like the wind. I can't see it anymore, but I feel it now. I can feel it again, and honestly, I've never been happier lately, she said with a smile as the two continued talking. Wow. Okay. Well, that was crazy and long. Half an hour. Another like half hour chapter. Oh my goodness. So, um, I'm wondering what happened to all that gang stuff because Jake killed that guy, or rather got his friends to kill that guy, but like is that just gonna go away now, or are the gangs gonna come back from him? Like, aren't there still other people in that gang who will come back for him? I'm kind of wondering about that, and but I think it's really cool, and I was right that that whole thing with Marshall and Fiona's mom knowing each other did open the door for Marshall and his mom's relationship to be healed, and I think that's awesome. I really love that. So, yeah, like they never had a good relationship, and I wanted them to have a good relationship. Because they're family. Anyway, that was really nice. And, yeah. I don't know what happened. I don't know if she actually just dreamt it or if she really had a psychotic break or something, but I don't know. Maybe it was a dream, maybe it was imagination. I don't know. Either way, either way, either way, it's fixed now. Um, I can't wait to see what the next chapter will bring. So yesterday when I was recording, I mean, oh my gosh. Yesterday I just uploaded a couple of leftover videos that I hadn't uploaded. The one shot and the next chapter of A Guardian Angel that I hadn't uploaded from the previous day because I didn't want to upload it all at once. And also I'm not sure if I'm even able to upload that much all at once. But either way, um I skipped recording yesterday because I had a couple of extra videos from yesterday, so I didn't have to record. And it was the first time I've skipped a recording in like, I don't know, 3 weeks. Uh, maybe like almost a month. Ever since I started uploading, like, ever since I started recording and uploading every single day. I think that was like almost a month ago now. Or maybe it was a month ago. I don't know. It was. Since I started uploading every single day. I don't know how long it was, but this is gonna be the last chapter for today, and this is all going in one massive video, so it's probably gonna be like an hour and a half to 2 hours long. I don't know if the next chapter is gonna be short or long, but let's read it. Looks like a short chapter. Yep. Yeah, it's pretty short, especially compared to previous chapters. Like the last chapter that we read. It's short, especially compared to the last chapter that we read. Okay, hang on. I might take a short break after this. Okay. Chapter 27. Something's very wrong. Uh-oh. That doesn't sound good. 1 month later. He had to admit it. He owed her this much, especially for finding a way to flawlessly mend Fiona's prom gown back to its original beauty and glamour. It was a month after the prom, and Marshall was having dinner with his mother in her house. Said house being a penthouse suite in one of the most expensive buildings in the city, but that's besides the point. He had to make a conscious effort to be nice, and oddly, it wasn't hard, as he thought it would be to do so. He was polite and found himself enjoying the conversation with his mother. He behaved, and she didn't pick at any sore spots. Much to his surprise, he was actually quite happy. Everything was going great until the car, at least until the car ride home. How's your arm? Hannah asked, recalling the sunburn he'd received last month and knowing how slowly his skin healed. It's been better. It is it still blistered up like it was the last time I saw it? She asked, looking over at his arm as she drove. No, they popped, Marshall said, pulling the sleeve of his hoodie down over his arm self-consciously as he started coughing, frustrated that after a week of cough syrup he still wasn't rid of it. Marshall, will you please have your arm checked by a doctor? Yeah, cough, no problem, the dark-haired teen said, still coughing. He'd been sick the week before, and the stubborn cough was the only proof left of his illness. Drink some water, Hannah said, keeping her eyes on the road, but pointing to a bottle in her cup holder as her son kept coughing. But seriously, Ma? Marshall said nervously, looking at his hands. What the glob was he looking at? He continued to cough. I want to see a doctor's appointment bill coming in the mail. Ma! He choked out, suddenly realized just what he was looking at as the crimson liquid dripped down his hand. And it better be soon. Now what? She asked, stopping at the red light and turning to look at her son, who was looking at his hands in shock and quickly looking to his mom. Glancing at his hands, she saw blood and gasped softly. Looking up, she'd noticed that he'd paled and watched as the dark red liquid ran down his chin. We're going to the hospital right now, okay? She said quickly. Marshall just nodded quickly. What's wrong with me? He asked, still coughing and continuing to stare as the blood slowly dripped, now staining his jeans. I don't know, baby, but we'll find out. Don't worry, it'll be okay. Oh, breakfast for dinner, it's the best thing ever. Gonna make the greatest food in the world. Bacon pancakes, I'm making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what I'm gonna make. Bacon pancake. Bacon pancake, Fiona sang happily as she poured pancake batter over the crispy bacon slice in the pan. Her mom was sitting at the table, smiling as she watched Fiona cook one of the two things that she could make, breakfast in the form of bacon pancakes. That and the song was taught to her by Jake, and the other was dinner, just plain boiled spaghetti. Just as Fiona plated her own pancake and sat down with her mom, the older blonde's cell phone went off. Fiona watched as she answered the phone, taking no notice of the conversation, just that it was with Marshall's mom, which was not at all unusual at this point. Getting ready to take another bite of pancake, Fiona paused just as she lifted the fork to her mouth. The look on her mom's face said everything. Something was wrong. What do you mean he's in the hospital? Hannah, what? Calm down and tell me what happened. Is he all right? Oh, Glob, of course, we'll definitely come down. Yeah, it'll take a few hours, but we'll be there, okay? Quickly, she hung up the phone. Fiona was filled with a sense of dread and unease. Me too. Mom, what's wrong? Put the food away and grab your things. Marshall's been admitted to the hospital. Hearing this news, Fiona's heart dropped. What happened? She asked, grabbing her jacket as they walked to the front door. They don't know. The doctors are running some tests, and Marshall wanted you there. Is he going to be okay? I hope so, sweetie. Marsh, please be okay. He was poked, prodded, and pestered by the doctor's staff, coming to draw blood to perform tests, and what seemed to be everything under the sun. When the doctor came to check up on him, his mother mentioned his arm, and the man checked on it, growing concerned with the blistering wound that most definitely should have healed by then. Marshall watched as the man examined his arm, pressing on the burn wound and poking at it, making him wince in pain. Just as he was about to snap at the doctor, he caught the look of concern on his face, and his mother did too. What's wrong, doctor? There's an unusual mass here, and with Marshall's genetic history and skin condition, I think we should biopsy it. I'll have a nurse set up the proper procedure room, and you'll be sent down there in the next 15 minutes. With that, he said. With that said, he walked from the room, leaving Marshall and his mother alone, and curious, Marshall began feeling against the burn on his skin, pausing in shock when he felt the bump under his skin. How did I not know about this? He asked softly to himself. The unnerved panic he felt, Marshall honestly couldn't help it, and he was more than overwhelmed. Ma? Yeah, baby. Can you call Ellen and see if Fiona can come down? He asked softly, watching nervously as the nurse came to collect him for the biopsy. Please? Of course I will. I'll call her right now, and by the time you're done, they'll be on their way, okay? Hannah said, watching as Marshall stared pleadingly at her. She could see his fear of what was to come clear in his eyes. Quickly, she hurried to his side, hugging him tightly. Everything is going to be okay, Marshall. It will, Hannah said, running her fingers through his hair as he buried his face in her stomach. But I'm scared. I'm scared of what they're going to find, he said quietly. I don't want to die. Hearing this wrenched at her heart as Hannah squeezed him tightly. Marcia, you're going to be just fine. You're not going to die. You're going to be fine, she said softly. I don't mean to interrupt, but I do have to take Mr. Abadir down now, the nurse said quietly. Much to his mother's surprise, Marshall simply held tighter to his mother. Please don't make me go down there alone. Hannah squeezed her son tighter in her arms, knowing both what she should do and what her husband would have wanted her to do. Of course not. I'm going to be right beside you, but right now you need to be strong. Can you do that? She asked gently. Yeah. Fiona fidgeted in the car as they finally pulled up to the hospital, and the moment Ellen parked, the two were out and quickly making their way inside. Mom, he's going to be okay, isn't he? I think so, sweetie. Marshall's tough. He'll be fine, Ellen said, her hand on Fiona's shoulder, as they walked through the halls, finally coming to a room that Marshall's mom was standing out in front of. Ellen! Hannah, is he okay? The blonde asked, hugging her friend tightly. He was coughing up blood, but that was because of a bronchial infection. The doctor just left, but Ellen, I'm worried. They just had to biopsy his arm. There was some sort of mass under his skin, and the doctor said that from the looks of it, we may need an oncologist in the future, the dark-haired woman said, trying not to cry. Can I go in and see him? Yes, go on in. Fiona didn't wait for another word and quickly opened the door, entering the room. Her eyes caught sight of him lying asleep in the hospital bed with IVs in his arm. Walking over, Fiona sat on the edge, gently running her fingers through his hair. Fiona couldn't believe that in the 2 weeks that she hadn't seen him he'd gotten so sick. Glancing over, she could see the bandage on his arm, and knew that it was there from the biopsies her mom and Hannah were just discussing. Lying down in the bed, Fiona wrapped her arms around Marshall, pulling him close to her, cradling his head beneath hers as she kissed his forehead. Everything's going to be okay, Marsh. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere, I promise. Marshall woke, hearing her voice and feeling a new warmth surrounding him, and opening his eyes, he smiled, feeling as a rush of relief flowed through him. He watched as Fiona smiled at him. Hey, how are you feeling? I was worried about you, the blonde said softly. I'm okay. I was kind of sick, but the doctor has me on antibiotics, so I'm okay, Marshall said sleepily, raising the arm with the IVs. And your arm? Fiona asked, watching as uncertainty settled on his features. I don't know. We're waiting on the test results. Will you stay here with me? Fiona felt her heart clench. Of course I will. I didn't come all this way just to visit you for a few minutes, you know, Fiona said with a smile as Marshall pulled her closer, giving the blonde a kiss. Good. I don't want to be alone here, Marshall said tiredly, snuggling closer to Fiona and burying his face in her neck. You won't be. It's really late, Marsh. Go back to sleep, okay? She said softly, her fingers still going through his hair. Okay. Well, we caught it at a very unusual stage, Mrs. Abadir. Honestly, we're not sure what to make of it. It's in between harmless and deadly cancer, to be honest. The cells have started to spread vertically up into the epidermis and grow into a section of skin called the papillary dermis. When it reaches there, the cancer's behavior changes drastically, and the next step in its evolution is the invasive radical growth phase. That is when the individual cells start to acquire invasive potential. So, what is it you're saying exactly? If we start chemotherapy now, there's a chance we can stop this in its tracks before it can progress. But if we continue to wait, it can progress into into his lymph nodes and spread through his body. We're at a very time-sensitive and critical point for Marshall here. It's imperative, the doctor said, looking over to the bed that the two teens were sharing, just as Hannah had. Do whatever you can to help him. We'll have to wake him up and start the process immediately. The longer we wait, the more cells are produced. Okay, I'll wake him, she said softly, walking over, though the moment she touched his shoulder, Marshall turned his head to face her. I'm in trouble, aren't I? He asked, having overheard most of the conversation. No, oh no, sweetie, no. They caught it, and it's okay, because now that they caught it, they can get rid of it. Come, the doctor wants to start the treatment as soon as possible. All you have to do is sit up, she said, watching as he slowly pushed himself free from Fiona's arms, sitting upright. What do I have to do? Just hold out your arm. We have to get this medicine into you. We'll be doing this once to twice a week for the next few months. We have to see how you handle the first round of this medicine. That will decide the dosage for later on, the doctor said as the nurse inserted the drug into his arm through the IV already hooked up. Ma? Yes, Marshall? She asked, watching as her son looked over at Fiona, who slept peacefully next to him. Do I have to tell her? That's That's up to you, Marshall. If the situation was reversed, would you want Fiona to tell you? Hannah asked as Marshall simply nodded. I would. This is really hard, he said softly. Just do what you feel is right, baby, his mom said softly. Again, he simply nodded. He didn't want to tell her. He wouldn't. He couldn't. The thought of being the bearer of bad news weighed heavy on his heart. He'd told her almost a year ago that he'd never grow old. He'd never live to his 80th birthday, 79th maybe, but not his 80th. Never in a million years old did he think his never in a million years did he think that his words would come back to haunt him. Not so soon. Marshall watched as the doctor hooked the bag of medicine onto the metal rod attached to his bed and connected the drip tube to the IV. What do I tell Fiona? What exactly is this? He asked his mother. It's the very beginning stage of skin cancer. It's a very high success rate, sweetie. They're going to give you this medicine to destroy the cells, and they're going to surgically remove the mass. Just tell her that you're having a minor surgery, and that they'll be doing chemo because radiation for you would just be dangerous. Is it really that simple? He asked, feeling his spirits lift. Yeah, love, it is. They'll have to do some tests after on your lymph nodes to be sure that it didn't spread. But it's so early it shouldn't have done so. The doctor has very high hopes for a full recovery. It's a good thing that you had that bronchial infection, though, or it would have taken a lot longer to catch it. Hearing this, Marshall only nodded in agreement, never feeling happier that he'd been sick. Okay, I'll tell her when she wakes up, Marshall said, feeling as waves of sleepiness overwhelmed him. Is this supposed to make me tired? The doctor said it can. That's a common side effect. Why? Are you? She asked, watching as he lay back, blinking blearily. Yeah. I'll close the bed curtains. Get some sleep, sweetie, she said, leaning down and giving him a kiss on the forehead. Mere moments later he was asleep, and seeing this, Hannah closed the curtains and walked out of the room. She sat on the chair outside the room with her head in her hand. Hey, there was no good place for coffee here, so I ran down the street, Ellen said, handing her friend the cup of coffee and holding her own. Are you okay, Han? The blonde asked in concern, watching his pained green eyes met hers. My baby has skin cancer, and he needs to have chemotherapy treatments for the next 5 months and have surgery to remove the mass from his arm, she said, sounding heartbroken. It's early, so that's good. They said it's very treatable, and there's a 90% chance of a full recovery. But even knowing this, I'm still terrified, she said, looking as though she was about to cry. Seeing this, Ellen hugged her. Hannah, you have a right to be. I'd be scared to death if it was any of my kids going through this. I'm still scared to death, and Marshall isn't even mine. All of the doctors are so optimistic, but the only thing I can think of is that everything would be so much more bearable if Marshall was here with us. I know, Hannah. I wish physically he could be here for you and Marshall, but at least we know he's going to be okay. This is one of the best hospitals in the state, she said, earning a smile from the dark-haired woman as she pulled over a seat. They had been talking for no more than 20 minutes when Fiona exited the room. What's that stuff on the IV hook? She asked as Hannah and Ellen shared a look. I'll tell her, the blonde said softly, before making her daughter sit, knowing good and well that what she was about to say was going to terrify her child. Fiona sat in her mom's chair listening as she explained what was going on and what the new medicine was for. The most important thing is that we know he's going to be okay and that he'll make a complete recovery, Ellen said, watching as her daughter simply sat there, shedding silent tears with a nod. I'm going to go back with Marsh now, okay? Fiona asked, standing up and waiting for her mother's nod of approval. Okay, sweetie, you can go. With that, she entered the room and climbed back into the bed, wrapping her arms around him tightly. She would take care of him until he was better, even if she had to live at his house for the rest of the summer. Whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes to see you all better, Marshall, Fiona whispered, once again feeling groggy, but now wondering vaguely why she could smell the faintest trace of men's aftershave. Closing her eyes, Fiona slowly began drifting off to sleep. The last thing she heard before falling asleep was Marshall's voice saying only one word. Dad. Oh my gosh, that was super intense. Okay, that was. Oh my god, that was intense. Okay, I need to take a break and eat pizza. I'm hungry. I'm really freaking hungry after those last few chapters. So I'm gonna go eat pizza and I'll see you guys in a bit. I'll be back with another chapter later at like It's 2 o'clock now, so like 2:30. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.